to give tax reliefs to small and medium-scale enterprises. They issued a press statement last week and rationalized that once given the right environment to operate, then small and medium-scale enterprises can be the engine of growth. The Youth Economic Dialogue also, in their call, wanted government to provide specific industries like the manufacturing, agribusiness, e-commerce with special incentives, as such businesses are capital intensive, and it sometimes gets frustrating when you're trying to acquire that initial funding. The president of the country, meanwhile, has assured that the financial health of SMEs is of the utmost importance to his administration. Let's hear his exact words.
Raised are issues that we are thinking around ourselves. We're having economies that are growing at a fast pace. Ghana is growing averagely at 8% per year, but the question we ask is, how is that growth translating into jobs for our people? And so government finds itself coming up with schemes and saying, look, this year we're going to help the private, small and medium enterprise sector with 100 million Ghana cedis. For instance, I'm just giving an example. And then you give it out as credits to small and medium enterprises. You come 5 years later and either the businesses have not grown larger than they were, or some of them have even sunk, but definitely the one thing you find is the money is never paid back. And that is because entrepreneurial skill is lacking. Often if you set up a business and you don't have the skills to run it yourself, we have a culture where Ghanaians would insist on running their own business instead of employing people who can run the business for them to run it, and then you sit and, you at the end of the year take your profit and your dividends, but we insist on being the managing director ourselves, even if we don't have the skills to manage the business properly. And so these are issues that we need to handle and bring reforms into those areas so that we can see small and medium enterprises growing, utilizing credits that government can make available to them on easier terms than they can get from the bank, and that will allow them to expand their businesses, to employ more young people into the enterprises. So I am all with you in this conference.
But really, we need to ask, is this enough? The Private Enterprise Foundation agrees that giving tax reliefs to startups makes sense for the health of the economy, especially given that some foreign businesses are given up to 10 years of tax relief. Today on AMBiz, I have a representative for the Youth Economic Dialogue, Nanayao Adutwum, and James Avedzi, who is MP for Ketu North and the chairman for the Parliamentary Committee on Finance. I have a few questions for them, and hopefully we will all get a better understanding of what it takes to set up a business in Ghana and how we can improve it. So I'll start with you, Nanayao. Tell me, why do you think you have a case for a 5-year tax holiday? 5-year tax holiday, I repeat, for startups.
Thank you very much. And I think within the context of our national development, the president has echoed our concerns. The Private Enterprise Foundation has also said the same. So it means that actually there is no opposition to that proposition. The key component of our proposal to the managers of the economy is that the SME creates jobs, they provide source of growth for economy, they help to redistribute income, they also help to reduce poverty, especially along the rural communities. The issue is that how do we ensure that SMEs have this kind of impetus to promote growth, create the jobs, help to reduce poverty? We believe that if you look at the SME sector as it is, operating in a very stressful environment where they borrow around, in fact, if you add everything, if you go to a bank and you add all the rates that you'll be paying, we are talking about 38 to 42% interest rate. And you are within an economy where you have to pay local government taxes, you have to pay central government taxes. It means that SMEs cannot give the kind of growth that we need. So we are therefore recommending to government that government should have a concerted and well-programmed proposal or framework to target at SMEs and startups especially with tax relief. And let me chip in this. Do we know that, as your statement said, if a foreign firm comes to Ghana and operates within the free zones enclave, that foreign firm can enjoy so much that includes something like a 10-year tax holiday, depending, of course, of the kind of goods that you are producing and the export component that you do. If a foreign firm also comes to Ghana and decide not to go into foreign free zones enclave, but rather site outside Accra Tema, it gets corporate tax relief of almost 25 percentage points, which means that that company is put in a more advantageous position than a local SME in Ghana. So we find that it is possible for the government to extend the same kind of relief to SMEs to ensure that these objectives that the president has agreed with us on, the Private Enterprise Foundation has agreed with us, and I believe Parliament as an institution, now being represented by Honorable, also agree with us on.
Okay. So you have brought the issue to his door. So let's find out what he has to say on it.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think that first of all, we need to know what is an SME. We are talking about small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
What is it is by definition? If you look at the Venture Capital Act, which was passed in 2004 at 680, it defined SME as any project undertaking, any industry or an economic activity whose capital base, of course excluding building and land, is not more than the cedi equivalent of $1 million, which means that if I have any small business which capital base is only 10,000, I fall within an SME. And SME form about 90% of our economy, which means that almost everybody is in that sector. A very small portion that form within the outside the SME. Now we all agree that SME provide employment for our people. That was no two ways about it. It also generate revenue for government. Now I will agree perfectly with the president. He has summed up everything. That we are having a lot of challenges. We're having a lot of challenges that is making it difficult for the proposal that is coming from the youth economic dialogue for implementation to be very, very difficult. Let me give you one example. If I set up a company that is an SME where I make profits every year, but because I have a tax holiday of 5 years, at the end of the 5th year I fold up that company. Then I open another company to start enjoying that tax holiday again. That is a big challenge because we don't have a well-organized structure of SMEs where we can track them and make sure that at the end of the 5th year you don't fold up your company and then go and open another company. So giving 5-year tax holiday for SMEs is going to have a big economic effect on government revenue. It's going to have a lot of effect in terms of what government can do to even support them. I agree with the president that even if you support them in starting up their company by providing them capital, they fail in paying back that capital. They fail completely. Sometimes because they want to own everything themselves. You find SMEs are so proprietorship in Ghana. SMEs are, few of them are partnership. They don't want to float their shares where you and me can go and buy shares and be part owner of that company because we want to have that family identity to the company. I want to have a small construction company that is made of, Avedzi construction company. And that is my family. I want that to be there. I don't want you to come and share part of that. And that is a problem we're having in this country. And for me, as an accountant and somebody who also want government to raise revenue in order to build and run this economy, before I can agree on that proposal, is that we need to put measures in place to ensure that SMEs are well organized. We need to ensure that people do not abuse the system. And for that matter, government can defer its revenue for that 5 years and then start ripping up after that 5 years. But if we don't put that structure in place, I bet you government will continuously lose revenue from that. What we can also do for them is to give them a carryover loss. If you start up a SME this year and you make law this year, you can be allowed to carry over that loss to the following year. So that if you make profit in the following year, you set off that loss you made in the previous year against that profit before you pay tax on the balance. That can be done. But to give a 5-year tax holiday, that is going to have a big economic impact on the economy.
All right, Nanayao, he has analyzed your problem. He has told you why he thinks it is not immediately feasible, and he's offered you an alternative. What do you have to say?
Yeah, let me chip in this. To a limited extent, I agree with the president, but the point that he raised cannot be the major challenge facing the SMEs. Because I'm aware, I work as a consultant. I'm aware, for example, the government has contracted a loan from the World Bank and given it to the Center for Vocational Education under the Skill Development Fund, which is a very important pillar within our national development that we should use to grow the skills and technology of SMEs. But what happens is that if you have a system that is actually anchored on political patronage, you have a problem. The issue of granting loans or facilitating relief to SMEs should be done holistically, and that is our proposal. Our proposal is that we have a decentralized system. Why is it that we are able to grant tax holiday to free zones companies and foreign firms that locate in Ghana? It can be done within the district assembly level because SMEs are located within the local government structure. What we also recommend is that, of course, the theme of our proposal is just the tax holiday plus other recommendations that we've made. But of course, there should be a set criteria to define who or what we call an SME. And I agree with Honorable's definition according to venture capital. But what we must understand is that the Bank of Ghana can show leadership in this enterprise by defining SMEs, ensuring that it is within the local context. Because there are 3 major criteria that you can use to define SME. For example, number of employees. For example, turnover and asset. But if you peg it too high, it means that you exclude some people. The issue about revenue loss, I agree with Honorable, and I made that point on another platform, that we know that within the short term, the government must pay the opportunity cost of losing some amount of revenue. But we also agree that most SMEs are not paying taxes as we speak now. What we are recommending is a way to rather bring more SMEs to come and pay tax, because the key criteria set should be that, one, you should register with the registrars general. Where data sharing, we are also recommending that there should be data sharing among agencies, not only.
But even if you're registered, he did make the point that they could enjoy the tax holiday for the 5 years and then fold up business at the end of those 5 years. Restart another company. I mean, it's not a crime.
That can be prevented.
The first one just didn't work out.
That can be prevented. Do you know why? If the 3 of us go to register general to register a firm, our names and details will be there. Yes. Assuming that we will have a lot of Ghanaian or Adutwums in Ghana. For example, our biodata can never be the same. We are in a technological age. So these things are possible. What we can do?
I don't think what he means is they abscond.
It means that they will fold up and form another.
And it could be for legitimate reasons. I mean, it just didn't work out. I am not able to make this business work out. But I have another idea. And I can make this other business work. So in that context, that is a practical folding up, and we know that businesses as going concern. I know Honorable knows much more than I do in that. Going concerns do fold up, but we are saying that if you qualify for that tax holiday, of course there should be certain conditions that will prevent you from enjoying subsequent tax holidays. But it doesn't mean that you can't operate in soap manufacturing and have a Gary processing plant later. You can. But our suggestion is that it should be holistic. And let me also make a point about the issue of SMEs defaulting to pay government-assisted loans. It is because we don't back SMEs up with skills and capacity. If you give SME, let's say a soap manufacturer located somewhere in a table, 10,000 Ghana cedis to buy raw materials,
and you just hand over the money to the person. One, you shouldn't forget that that person may be a household leader and therefore have immediate personal challenges like paying school fees or donating for a funeral, which is more closer to him than or her than buying raw material. What you do is that government can rather assess the needs of this woman who is producing soap and identify exactly what the woman will use the 1,000 cedis for. And therefore, government can not hand over the cash, but rather give the input or raw material and even assist the woman to manage records keeping, for example, which is one of the major challenges, I believe, than the SMEs attitude that they want to own the business. Because
okay, so that sounds all very simple as you are saying it. What I want to find out, Honorable, is it as simple as he says, or it's a lot more complicated?
Yeah, it's not as simple as my friend Adutwum is putting it. In fact, all that he's saying are issues that are currently ongoing. There are projects, there are programs that are ensuring that government improve the skills of our people. That one is ongoing. So before we come to issue about giving tax holiday, then we have to tackle these problems and make sure that we cure all these problems. Then we can go ahead and look at tax holidays. Now, there's one thing that we should also work on is the attitude of our own selves. If you travel outside this country and go to probably Europe or USA, you will not see small kiosks all over spread by the roadside. You see big shops. Those big shops are not owned by one person. They are owned by the people through small shares that they buy. Why do we as Africans or Ghanaians want to own small shops? Why can't we also use that money, buy shares in big companies so we can have big malls all over? We are trading, but through this means. But we want to own our own everything ourselves.
Okay.
And most of these companies or SMEs do not differentiate or do not differentiate themselves from the company as a legal entity. They think that I am the company is me. So I take the company check, I put it inside my bag. I go to funeral, I issue check, company check for funeral donation.
So how do we get past that? How do we move forward so that we can have a system where our SMEs are properly recognized, properly regulated, and we can get
in the
tax
late 1990s, the government, the NDC government, previous one, starts up this project with rural enterprises project, and government set up business advisory centers at the district assembly. It was modeled like the legal aid. If you have a problem with the issue of justice and you can't afford legal service, you walk to legal aid. If you are SME and you have a complex business problem, you're supposed to go to a place like that. If you send your reporters to go and ask 10 SME if they are aware of this facility, I can tell you about 80% of them will not know.
Okay,
so information asymmetry.
We need more education.
We need more education, capacity
SMEs.
building, and it should be done properly.
Then, is it that SMEs are not ready for the tax reliefs? There are certain things we need to do before we can get there.
Our statement made mention of a lot of recommendations. The tax holiday is just one of them.
Okay.
The point is that we should use the tax holiday as a decoy to attract these SMEs to come to government institutions, government centers for proper capacity building.
But here the position is you're not ready for the tax reliefs.
We are ready.
But you think it will take time for the tax reliefs to pass through the whole process and actually come into existence?
I can tell you.
So can we work this side by side?
I can tell you if Parliament and government is serious about giving, let's say, 2-year tax release, it can be done by 2015, first year.
By 2015,
first year, I can tell you.
Let me give you just one example. Parliament last year passed a law that says that companies that are even defaulted in paying their taxes, we are giving them tax relief. That they will not pay all those taxes that they've defaulted previously. Come up and register, and that system is going on now, and it will end in December. No, it will end in September ending this year. Very few company or SMEs are taking advantage of this because they don't want to be known. Some of them are there and they're not paying taxes. So that is the challenge that we have as a country. As I said, we are not ready for tax holiday for SMEs now. We need to put all these measures in place.
All right.
Currently, there is venture capital.
Okay.
That if even supporting SMEs work to raise capital. Most of them do not even want to go through the processes that are involved to access that capital. I want to raise my own capital. I want to set up my own company. I don't want any interference. That is the challenge we have as a country.
All right. It sounds like a lot of work still needs to be done before we can offer tax relief to local SMEs. So I'm assuming that we will take this topic again sometime after some extensive education has been done, and then we'll see how far we can carry through with the tax reliefs and the other recommendations that the Youth Economic Dialogue is suggesting. My guests for AM Biz today have been Nanayao Adutwum, who is the Youth Economic Forum, from the Youth Economic Forum, and we have James Kluche Avedzi, who's the chairperson for the Finance Committee in Parliament. Well, that's it for AM Biz this morning. We have my banner coming up soon.